Some of you stepped into this new year carrying invisible weight. You smiled at midnight, but your heart whispered questions no one else could hear. Will this year be different, or will it repeat the same pain, the same battles, the same unanswered prayers? You woke up this morning with a calendar that says, a new year has begun, but your soul wonders if anything truly changed. And yet, right here, right now, there is a holy moment unfolding, because a new year does not begin with dates and clocks. It begins when a heart dares to trust God again. There was a man in Scripture who stood at the edge of uncertainty, facing days he could not predict and challenges he could not control. He did not have a map for the future, but he knew the one who holds the future. So he prayed, not with fancy words, but with surrender. He placed tomorrow into God's hands, knowing that hands strong enough to shape the universe are gentle enough to carry a trembling soul. That same invitation stands before you today as you place this year before the Lord. As the sun rises on these first days of the year, hear this truth deep within you. You are not stepping into 2026 alone. The same God who guarded you through storms you never thought you would survive has already gone ahead of you. He has seen every challenge before it reaches you. He has measured every trial and weighed every tear. Nothing that awaits you will surprise him. Nothing that threatens you will overpower his grace. Some of you are praying for protection because last year wounded you. You trusted and it hurt. You tried again and you were disappointed. Your heart learned to be cautious even with hope. But listen carefully. God does not promise a life without trouble. He promises his presence in the trouble. When you commit this year to him, you are not asking for a painless path. You are asking for a guided one. You are saying, Lord, if I must walk through the valley, walk with me. If I face the fire, stand beside me. There is a mother listening who worries about her children, a father burdened by financial uncertainty, a young person unsure of direction, an older soul wondering how much strength remains. God sees every one of you. He is not distant. He is not distracted. He bends low to hear the prayers you whisper through tears and the ones you can't even put into words. And when you place this year into his hands, you are placing it into the hands that were once pierced by nails, hands that understand suffering and still chose love. Breakthrough does not always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it comes quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. It comes when courage rises where fear once lived. It comes when peace enters a situation that has not yet changed. God's breakthroughs often begin on the inside, reshaping hearts before circumstances ever move. When you surrender this year to him, you give him permission to work deeply, not just quickly. There was a season when God's people stood before a closed door, convinced it would never open. They prayed. They waited. They wondered if God had forgotten them. But at the appointed time, the door did not merely open, it swung wide. What they thought was a delay was divine preparation. What they called silence was God arranging a miracle. Your story is not finished. The pages ahead may hold answers you cannot yet imagine. As you commit this year to the Lord, you are declaring that fear will not be your guide. Faith will. You are saying that the voices of doubt will not define you. God's promises will. You are choosing to believe that even if the road ahead bends unexpectedly, his hand will steady you. Protection does not mean the absence of danger. It means the presence of divine covering. Breakthrough does not always mean instant change. It means unstoppable purpose. This year, God may close doors you wanted open and open doors you never considered. He may redirect plans, rearrange priorities, and refine your patience. Do not resist his leading. Trust that he sees the whole picture while you see only a moment. The God who parted seas and raised the dead specializes in making a way where none seems possible. So this morning, with humility and hope, offer him this year. Offer him your dreams and your disappointments, your plans and your fears, your strength and your weakness. Say, Lord, I place every month, every decision, every unknown into your hands. When you do, you are not losing control, you are gaining peace. And when storms rise, remember this: the one who calms the wind and waves is in your boat. When darkness presses in, remember that light does not ask permission to shine. When your strength feels small, remember that God's power is made perfect in weakness. He has carried you this far, and he will not abandon you now. This year holds moments that will shape you, stretch you, and strengthen you. Some days will bring joy that makes your heart overflow. Others will call for endurance you did not know you possessed. Through it all, God will remain faithful. He always has been. He always will be. Step forward with confidence, not because you know what lies ahead, but because you know who goes before you. Place this year into his hands and rest in the assurance that nothing entrusted to God is ever wasted. The morning has come. Hope has risen. And the God who holds eternity now holds your year. When you surrender a new year to God, you are not handing him a blank calendar. You are offering him your heart. You are laying down every expectation you've been carrying, every fear you've been hiding, and every plan you thought you had under control. Surrender begins when you admit that you do not know what tomorrow holds, but you believe with all your soul that God does. It is a quiet but powerful confession that says, Lord, I cannot carry this year on my own. In that moment, faith shifts from words you speak to a posture you live. Many people step into a new year making promises to themselves, hoping that discipline alone will change their future. But surrender is different. Surrender says that strength is not found in trying harder, but in trusting deeper. It is releasing the illusion that you can manage every outcome and embracing the peace that comes from letting God lead. When you place your year in his hands, you are acknowledging that his wisdom surpasses your understanding and his timing is greater than your urgency. There are burdens you carried into this year that were never meant to come with you. Regrets from last year, disappointments that still echo in your thoughts, and prayers that seem unanswered have weighed heavily on your spirit. Surrender invites you to set those burdens down. It is choosing to believe that God is not limited by what went wrong before. He is not restrained by your past mistakes or delayed by your previous failures. When you give him this year, you give him permission to write a new chapter that is not confined by the old ones. True surrender requires humility. It means admitting that your plans may need to change and your direction may need correction. Sometimes God will gently close doors you were certain should remain open. Other times he will ask you to walk away from what feels comfortable and step toward what feels uncertain. Surrender is trusting that even when God redirects your path, he is not removing something good. He is protecting you from something that would have held you back. Placing this year into God's hands also means surrendering your timeline. You may want immediate answers, instant relief, and quick breakthroughs, but God works beyond the limits of human clocks. He shapes character before he changes circumstances. He strengthens faith before he opens doors. Surrender allows you to wait without bitterness and hope without anxiety, knowing that God is never late and never early, but always precise. When you surrender your year, you also surrender your fears. Fear thrives where control is clutched tightly, but it weakens when trust is released. As you commit each day to God, fear loses its authority over your thoughts and decisions. Peace begins to replace panic. Confidence grows not because life becomes predictable, but because God becomes your anchor. This act of surrender is not done once and forgotten. It is a daily offering. Each morning you choose again to place your plans, your relationships, your work, and your future into God's care. Some days it will feel easy, other days it will feel costly. But every time you surrender, you align your heart with God's purpose and open your life to His guidance. When you truly surrender a year to God, you are not giving up your dreams. You are placing them into hands capable of shaping them into something greater than you ever imagined. When you trust that God goes before you, your understanding of the future begins to change. You no longer face tomorrow as a mystery filled with fear, but as a path already known by the one who leads you. God does not wait at the end of your journey to see how things turn out. He stands ahead of you, preparing the way, arranging details you cannot see, and aligning moments that will one day make sense. Long before you encounter a challenge, God has already seen it and determined how His grace will meet you there. There are times when the road ahead looks uncertain and the silence feels heavy. You pray, but answers do not come quickly. You move forward, but clarity seems distant. In those moments, it is easy to believe that you are walking alone. But Scripture reminds us that God is not behind you pushing you forward, nor is He far away watching from a distance. He goes before you, clearing obstacles, softening hearts, and opening doors at the right time. What feels like delay is often divine preparation unfolding quietly. Think of the many seasons in life when you arrived at a moment and later realized how perfectly timed it was. You met someone who changed your direction, avoided a situation that would have harmed you, or received help at the exact moment you needed it most. These moments are not coincidences. They are evidence that God was already ahead of you, arranging what you could not have planned. Even in your confusion, His guidance was steady and sure. Trusting that God goes before you also means trusting Him with outcomes. You may have a clear vision of how things should unfold, but God sees the full picture. He understands the consequences of every decision and the impact every delay. Sometimes He allows uncertainty to stretch your faith, teaching you to rely on Him rather than your own understanding. In those seasons, faith becomes less about knowing the path and more about knowing the guide. There are doors God opens that you never could have forced, and doors He closes that you will one day thank Him for. When God goes before you, He protects you not only from visible danger, but from hidden harm. He knows what lies beyond each opportunity and shields you from paths that would drain your joy or derail your purpose. Trusting Him means believing that His no is as loving as His wise. As you walk into each new day, remember that God has already been there. He has seen your conversations before you speak them, your decisions before you make them, and your struggles before they arise. His presence ahead of you is a promise that you are never unprepared for what comes next. You are equipped not by your strength, but by His presence. When fear whispers that you are stepping into the unknown, faith responds by reminding you that the unknown is fully known by God. He is not surprised by your questions or threatened by your doubts. He invites you to follow Him step by step, trusting that where He leads, He also provides. Every step taken in faith draws you closer to the assurance that you are walking a path already touched by His hand. Living with the confidence that God goes before you changes how you face each moment. It gives you courage to move forward, patience to wait, and peace to rest, even when the way ahead is not yet clear. Divine protection is often misunderstood as a promise of ease, but it is far deeper and more powerful than a life without trouble. God's protection is His presence surrounding you in every season, whether the days are bright or the nights feel heavy. It is the assurance that no matter what you face, you are never exposed or abandoned. When God covers your life, you are held by a power that is greater than every threat, visible or unseen. There are moments when danger does not announce itself. It comes quietly through exhaustion, discouragement, temptation, or subtle fear that slowly weakens faith. God's protection extends into these hidden battles. He guards your heart when disappointment tries to harden it. He protects your mind when anxiety seeks to overwhelm your thoughts. His covering is not limited to physical safety. It reaches into the deepest places of your soul where the most important battles are fought. Many times, God's protection is revealed in what does not happen, accidents avoided, words left unspoken, paths redirected, relationships that did not progress further than they did. Looking back, you may realize how close you came to harm without ever knowing it at the time. God was present in those unseen moments, guiding steps and restraining circumstances. His protection works silently and faithfully even when you are unaware of its presence. In seasons of hardship, it can feel as though protection has failed. Pain enters, loss occurs, and questions rise. But God's protection does not mean you will never be wounded. It means you will never be destroyed. Even when life strikes hard, God sustains you and preserves your faith and keeps your soul anchored. The enemy may attack, but he cannot take what God has secured. You may bend under pressure, but you will not break beyond repair. God's protection also carries a purpose. He guards you not only for your comfort, but for your calling. There are things He is preserving in you that are not yet ready to be revealed. There are future moments that require the strength you are developing now. Protection often looks like restraint, patience, and endurance, forming character while guarding destiny. When you choose to trust God's protection, fear loses its grip. You stop living as though every step is dangerous and begin walking with confidence in His care. This trust does not make you careless, but it makes you calm. You become aware that your life is not fragile in the hands of God. It is secure, watched over by one who neither sleeps nor grows weary. Divine protection invites you to rest. Not because circumstances are always safe, but because God is always faithful. His presence becomes a shield around your life, allowing you to move forward without constant dread. In His protection, you find the courage to face challenges, the strength to endure trials, and the peace to trust that nothing can separate you from His care. Many people wait for breakthrough as if it will arrive suddenly from the outside, changing circumstances overnight and removing every obstacle at once. But God often begins His greatest work within the heart long before anything shifts around you. Internal transformation prepares you to carry the weight of external change. Without that inner work, a breakthrough could become a burden rather than a blessing. God understands this, and He is patient enough to shape you before He surprises you. There are seasons when you pray for open doors, but God focuses on strengthening your faith. You ask for answers, but He builds endurance. You seek relief, but He deepens your trust. This is not delay or neglect, it is preparation. God knows that the breakthrough you desire requires a heart that can remain steady, humble, and faithful when the change finally comes. Inner growth ensures that when blessings arrive, they do not pull you away from Him. Breakthrough within often begins when old patterns are challenged. God gently reveals attitudes, fears, and habits that no longer serve His purpose in your life. This can be uncomfortable because it requires honesty and surrender. But this inner refining is an act of love. God removes what would limit your future so that you are free to walk fully into what He has prepared. Healing, forgiveness, and renewed perspective are powerful breakthroughs that reshape the course of a life. Sometimes the greatest sign of inner breakthrough is peace in the middle of uncertainty. Circumstances may remain unchanged, yet your response becomes calm instead of anxious, hopeful instead of defeated. This shift does not happen by human effort alone. It is the work of God's Spirit teaching you to rest in His promises even when outcomes are unclear. That peace becomes a foundation strong enough to support whatever comes next. God's internal work also sharpens discernment. You begin to see situations more clearly, recognizing which paths align with God's will and which ones distract from it. This clarity protects you from rushing into decisions driven by emotion or fear. Inner breakthrough gives you the wisdom to wait, the courage to act, and the humility to trust God's timing. When breakthrough starts within, your identity changes. You no longer define yourself by what you lack or what has gone wrong. You begin to see yourself as God sees you, loved, chosen, and called. This renewed identity influences every area of life, from relationships to decisions, from resilience to hope. It strengthens you to stand firm when challenges arise and remain grateful when blessings flow. God's pattern is consistent. He builds roots before He produces fruit. He prepares the vessel before He pours the oil. Inner breakthrough may not be visible to others, but it is essential for what is coming. As God works quietly within you, He is aligning your heart with His purpose, ensuring that when the moment of change arrives, you are ready to step forward with faith, wisdom, and strength. As you stand at the threshold of this year, take a moment to breathe and remember who holds your future. Life may still feel uncertain, questions may remain unanswered, and challenges may not disappear overnight, but you are not walking forward without hope. You are stepping into a year already known by God, guided by His wisdom, and sustained by His grace. When you place your trust in Him, you exchange fear for faith and anxiety for assurance. This year will carry moments that test you and moments that transform you. There will be days when prayers feel powerful and days when they feel heavy. Yet in every season, God will remain constant. He does not withdraw when circumstances grow difficult. He draws closer. His faithfulness does not depend on your strength or consistency. It flows from His unchanging nature. When you feel weak, He becomes your strength. When you feel lost, He becomes your guide. Remember that God's purpose is always greater than your present situation. What feels like delay may be protection. What feels like silence may be preparation. God is working in ways you cannot yet see, shaping outcomes that will one day reveal His perfect timing. Trusting Him means believing that nothing you surrender to Him is ever wasted. Not your prayers, not your tears, not your waiting. As you move forward, let faith define your steps. Choose prayer over panic, obedience over fear, and trust over control. Every time you turn to God, you are reminded that you do not carry this year alone. His presence surrounds you, His promises anchor you, and His peace guards your heart. You may not know every detail of what lies ahead, but you know the one who goes before you. Let this year be marked not by what you achieve, but by who you trust. Let your confidence rest not in circumstances, but in God's character. When difficulties arise, let them drive you deeper into His presence rather than away from it. When blessings come, let them strengthen your gratitude rather than your pride. A life surrendered to God becomes a testimony of His goodness and faithfulness. There is nothing ahead of you that God is unprepared to handle. No challenge too great, no fear too strong, no mistake too final for His grace. He specializes in redemption, restoration, and renewal. Even broken moments can become building blocks in His hands. Even setbacks can be transformed into stepping stones toward His purpose. So walk into this year with courage in your heart and faith in your spirit. Lift your eyes beyond what you see and anchor your hope in what God has promised. He is faithful to complete the work He has begun in you. As you continue to trust Him, you will find strength for each day, peace for each step, and assurance for every unknown.